Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Just imagine it. The deafening roar of the crowd, the thundering of hooves, and that pure kinetic thrill radiating through the air at Churchill Downs. We're talking about the 152nd run for the Roses, and let me tell you, the energy was absolutely explosive. You can almost feel the vibration of the track just thinking about it. We're looking at a race that delivered a finish so breathless, so entirely off the script, that it literally left the entire sporting world completely stunned. Today, we're unpacking the sheer, heart-stopping magic of the 2026 Kentucky Derby. 23-1. Just listen to that number and let it sink in for a second. 23-1. Those were the staggering, astronomical odds placed on Golden Tempo before the gates even opened. I want you to plunge right into the dirt, the noise, and the absolute disbelief of this moment. In a race of this magnitude, a 23-1 shot is usually an afterthought, right? It's the horse that gets buried in the betting slips. But when the dust settled, this overlooked colt found a gear that defied logic, shattered expectations, and turned an entire stadium of skeptics into believers in just a matter of seconds. And this right here brilliantly illustrates exactly why the crowd was left in such a state of shock. Going into the race, there wasn't a single dominant favorite, but all the early, heavy attention was fiercely concentrated on a trio of titans. We're talking Renegade, Commandment, and So Happy. These were the names everyone expected to be fighting it out down the stretch. But lined up against them, the ultimate dark horse, Golden Tempo. It's really the perfect story of the sheer unpredictability of the sport. You have the highly anticipated leaders controlling the narrative, completely blind to the colt creeping up from the shadows. Moving on to part 1, Anatomy of the Comeback. So let's see how this actually builds step by agonizing step. Entering the far turn, Golden Tempo is dead last. He is entirely out of the picture. As the field straightens out, he's buried, stuck in 13th place, navigating the chaotic, suffocating traffic of a massive 18-horse field. But then, a tiny, fleeting gap opens up on the outside. Jockey Jose Ortiz doesn't even hesitate. He hits the gas. And at the wire, Golden Tempo surges with absolute, undeniable authority, flying down the outside to edge out Renegade by a literal nose, stopping the clock at a blazing 2:02:27. It was an absolute masterpiece of timing. Next up, part 2, Shattering the Glass Ceiling. 17. Over the course of 152 years of Kentucky Derby history, only 17 women had ever even saddled a runner for this legendary race. And before this weekend, not a single one had ever won. That is, until trainer Cherie DeVaux. She started her own stable back in 2018, putting in years of quiet, relentless dedication after learning under established trainers. And with this one unforgettable race, she didn't just win, she completely obliterated a 152-year-old barrier. You can really feel the pure, unfiltered emotion from Cherie DeVaux after the race. She said, "I don't even have any words right now, I just can't. Jose did a masterful job at getting him there. He was so far out of it." You can just hear her absolute speechlessness. That feeling that comes when a lifetime of grueling work, early mornings, and immense pressure all culminates in 2 impossible minutes. It's such a beautifully raw human moment. Now for part 3, the masterful jockey. Ortiz's weekend was truly astronomical. Winning the Derby is a career-defining moment on its own. But Ortiz, he won the Kentucky Oaks just the day prior. Completing that Oaks Derby double is exceptionally rare. It requires an almost superhuman level of focus across 2 grueling high-stakes days. But what grounds this story so beautifully is the human element. He celebrated this monumental sky-high milestone surrounded by his 3 kids and his wife. And because his wife is a former rider herself, she understood the exact magnitude, the sheer danger, and the glorious triumph of what her husband had just accomplished. Just listen to how Ortiz explains the victory. He said, with quiet, solid confidence, "Most of the time the race doesn't go the way you plan it. To have free rein to trust myself, my instincts, is very important. That trust is everything." He explicitly credited his training group, Cherie DeVaux and her team, for having his back. Because they allowed him to be himself, he had the freedom to abandon the script, trust his gut, and make that breathtaking outside move without a single second of hesitation. Finally, part 4, the full 2026 Derby standings. Up at the very top of the standings are 23-1 champion Golden Tempo. Right beneath him is Renegade, who suffered that absolutely heartbreaking second-place finish by a mere nose. Ocelli and Chief Wallabee put in massive efforts to round out the top 4, but notice exactly where those other heavily hyped early favorites landed. Down at number 7, Commandment, and down at number 9, So Happy. They drew all the early attention, but ultimately they just couldn't hold off the blistering pace of the leaders. And looking at the rest of the 18-horse field from Emerging Market in 10th, all the way down through the pack to Pavlovian in 18th. Every single one of these horses and jockeys contributed to the fierce, chaotic traffic jam that made Golden Tempo's outside rallies so unbelievably spectacular. Which brings us to a final lingering thought. This weekend wasn't just a race, it was a paradigm shift. With Cherie DeVaux decisively shattering a 152-year-old barrier in front of the entire world, who will be the next to rewrite racing history? This explainer really proves that the impossible is merely a starting point. Let that inspire you as you watch the rest of the sports world unfold. Thank you so much for joining us today to break this down, and definitely keep your eyes open for the next impossible triumph.